Hi, Dr. Maier. I'm Andrea Olson, and we'll be interviewing you today. And it's a true pleasure to meet you, and I'm really glad you found time for this interview. And as an ambassador of the RDD program this year, I'm representing the teenage community, and I've prepared several questions for you. So we'll start off with some oriented and more specifically your research, and then some more like general questions, general career questions and recommendations you might have for teenagers. So to begin with, would you please tell us a little bit about your background, introduce your area of expertise, and explain what you study together with your research team?
Yeah, so you know my name, Andrea Maier. I'm German by origin and I studied medicine, so I'm an MD, and I'm a physician. I'm a geriatrician and internal medicine specialist, so I'm dual trained. And during my medical studies, I did lots of research already, which were sometimes quite unsuccessful until I reached to the aging field, because in aging, you can do lots and nothing is really known, and at that time at least. So I started to discover why cellular systems age. So I focused on cellular senescence. So that's a state when cells do not divide anymore, but they're still in the human body. And my group here, I recently moved to Singapore at the National University of Singapore. I'm working, and before that I worked in Australia, and before that I worked in the Netherlands, where I also still work. We are discovering, or we would really like to see what kind of biomarkers there are, how to measure biological age. So we would like really to see what kind of markers can we use in clinical practice, of course I'm a clinician, to utilize to judge how old you are. And it would be very nice to already do that from very young ages onwards. And if I'm talking about young, I'm a geriatrician, then I'm talking about around about 20-year-olds. So we are looking for these kind of biomarkers which could be implemented into clinical practice. And we're also looking for the biomarkers because we are doing studies to make you younger. So giving drugs, for example, repurposed drugs or new compounds, we are testing to make somebody younger. And then especially the age group of 40 to 50. So that's more my age group.
Great, thank you for telling us this. And what inspired you to research this area in the first place?
It's a good story, and it happened actually in China when I was an exchange student in China. And I did lots of research in pulmonology, so really research of the lung. And while doing so, I was not really successful. And maybe this is also that I was not guided quite well. So choose your mentor wisely. That's my first tip. But during that time, I went to practice traditional Chinese medicine in China. And I had that lovely lady who practiced with me Tai Chi very early in the morning at 4 o'clock. It was much too early for me. But that lady looked so young, but she actually was in her 90s. And I was very impressed. So I said, okay, maybe I have to do something in geriatrics. And then I contacted a university in the Netherlands. And then I went from geriatrics to gerontology. And then I did lots of research, which was more successful than my starting point.
So what you study mainly focuses on the elderly, but would you say some of your research also concerns younger people? And if so, what does?
Oh, absolutely. Because if the start of life is not right, so which means in utero or even during development until the age of 18 or 20, if that's not right, I think you have a very detrimental and bad aging trajectory. So I was focusing much more on older individuals when I was in Australia. And before that, I really focused on the old ones, namely the nonagenarians and centenarians, which means these are individuals at the age of 90 or 100. And while really trying to discover why these individuals age so nicely, and most of the times also happily, I switched then to the more sick individuals in hospitals, but now I'm switching back to very young individuals at the age of 20 to 60. So 20 to 60-year-olds for the biomarkers, and then the 40-year-olds for the interventions.
Mhm.
Because that's important, because otherwise it's too late. Don't wait until it's too late.
And what response have you gotten so far to your research? Are people accepting of it, or supportive, or otherwise skeptical?
Who is skeptical?
Just the public in general.
The public. Oh, it depends on in which country I am in. So in Europe, there's so much interest about aging and how to antagonize aging, and there's so much interest from the media. When I'm in the Netherlands, I'm very often in television shows and lots of newspaper things, and so there's so much exposure, and everybody loves it. When I was in Australia, there was really not much, because there the topic about how you age is really focused on the last stage of life, which is in the nursing homes and how we treat all the individuals in nursing homes, and especially the focus sometimes how bad nursing homes are. So that was the focus, because the development, I would say, of aged care or geriatrics was less developed, and also there was not much discussion. But if you're in Europe, you're on the right spot, because then you get lots of attentions and you can actually bring your message to older individuals and to aging individuals, and even to scholars. So we have lots of projects where we go to schools, most of the times in high schools, and have talks, and to interact with teenagers, to make them interested in our research, because we need future generations, you guys, to enter the field and to do some research first with us, and then you can guide us.
Would you say that this support in European areas has allowed you to then further your research and advance it much better?
Yeah, I think Europe is really advanced. If you compare it to other states, US is also very, very good. But there is, or there was, and there is a good research funding in Europe for aging research. And of course, it can always be better, but at least there is a focus. And that's also what you can see, that there is interaction with the human public, and there is interest. And if there's interest, I think this accelerates funding and opportunities to do research. So I think you're in the right country if you're in Germany at the moment.
Yes, that's right. Are there things that you use from your research in your everyday life? Something to increase your own longevity?
Oh, yes, lots. Look, my group, especially my European group, is investigating lots of interactions between lifestyle, so what you can do, and how that makes you either younger or older if you don't do it. And one of the factors is, for example, physical activity. So how many steps you do per day. And actually, even now, we are living in the year 2021, and we even do not know how many steps somebody should take. So we tried to solve that, and we nearly solved that. And so every step counts is the message, I would say. So independent if you're already old and sick, every further step is really making a difference. If you're young, really take your 20,000 steps. Don't stop at the 10,000 steps. And in between, do it dependent on your physical capacity. So at the moment, I must admit, because I just arrived in Singapore, I don't do my steps because it's so hot here. So I am doing my steps in the swimming pool, doing lots of laps.
Okay, so you'd say sport is the main thing that you implement in your own life?
Yes, I must say I have a very good diet. And I try to have a good sleep hygiene. However, in our business, it's quite sometimes hard to to sleep at the right time because of all the calls, etc. I must say I don't take, because I think this is your question, I don't take any drugs, at least not at the moment, because I don't think that we have evidence enough in human beings and bigger trials to make sure that what you are taking has actually effects. So I'm a person that I really believe in the field, but I don't believe, and therewith I should take drugs. I think we are all researchers, and we love academia. So therewith we like numbers, and so we should actually prove that it helps. So that's the reason why I'm in Singapore, to prove at least some of the concepts, how we can make somebody younger or prevent a decline in function and cognition, etc. So don't take drugs.
And often teenagers wonder if their diet actually really affects their longevity. And would you say that food impacts the length of your life? And what if you had a really bad diet as a child? How will that affect you in the future?
Good question. So as I said, it starts really at very young age. So really try to eat healthy, and the healthiest you can. So fruit, vegetables, etc. But and there is a problem at your age, or in teenagers, because 25% of the European children, they have obesity. So, and that's unbelievable. 25% have a too high body mass index, which means their weight is too high compared to their height. But it's, I would say, never too late. So we know that if you're losing weight, you have a good diet, that you can actually reunivate, and that you can be healthy in the end, and reduce your biological age, which means how old the body really is. So I would say really try to do the right things. We all know, and which teachers try to teach us. But if that was not the case in the earliest years of your life, that doesn't matter, because you can change, and you can change the coin to the other direction, and then it will be all right. But make sure, if you have children, in the end, that you don't do it as maybe you grew up.
And also quite a few people ask themselves, will the added years of life be of high quality and make people happy, or will they really be years of sickness and not being able to do that much? What is your opinion on this matter?
I think that we should add healthy life years. So we should add health and not much disease, because that's what we should like to prevent. So I would like that patients come to my office, because I don't have patients anymore. So that would be the end goal, of course. And that will never happen, because diseases will always occur. So I think our field is trying to get healthy lives in, but that doesn't mean, and I think that's a problem, that these are happy, healthy years. So because the mental capacity, and if somebody is happy with their life, if you are happy with your friends, if you're happy with the school, is something else than that your body is healthy and that was happy. And of course there is an interaction, because most of the times if you're healthy, you're also happy. And sometimes if you are happy, you don't be healthy. So I think we should work on health. That's the first thing. But we should also not forget, especially during COVID and all the nasty situations we are living in, that we should try also to be happy, and there will sometimes make things which do not make you healthy. So sometimes there is time for French fries and something you should not eat too much. At least I do that to make me happy.
And a little bit different question now. So what are the problems of, like, how are the problems of overpopulation and research management being sought to be solved if we're only increasing the number of people on Earth by lengthening their lifetimes?
Yeah. So you are asking, or you are actually saying there are already so many people on Earth. So why adding healthy life years to the lives of individuals? And that's a good question. I think neuroscience or our field cannot solve that there are lots of people, because we know that there are much too many people on Earth. And even China now says that you can have 3 children, for example, to expand the number of children. So I think that that's a huge problem, but neuroscience cannot solve that. What we can solve is, if you're on Earth, so if you're a living being, a Homo sapiens, then actually we have to make sure that your life you have is healthy. But we will not solve the problem of too many people on Earth. I think that has to be solved differently. During my lifetime, and I'm in the very early 40s, the population size has doubled. So there are 100% more people on Earth. So, and I think that that's a huge problem. However, we can make sure that if you're on Earth, that you are healthy, and that we extend the lifespan a little bit. I would say it's a little bit the side effect of, if you're growing old without diseases, that you will also live longer.
Mm-hmm. And also during the pandemic, there has been a rise of awareness towards mental health. Many are now interested in this area, but to touch upon it, how do you think longer lifespans will affect mental health conditions in the future?
I think there are a little bit two types of individuals, and one person is very happy and always gives an 8 out of 10 for life and always has a smile, and if there's a difficulty, they will solve it. And then there are people who, from a character point of view, they are quite depressed and they don't see it. So, and by making people live longer and healthier, I think you will not change that character of people. So, of course, I think all of you, and you know, individuals who say, I'm not sure if we should do that. No, yes, let's try it. Let's solve it, and let's do it. So there are very positive ones, and then there are more negative ones. And I think mental health is very important. And of course, everybody should be happy on Earth if you're alive, because that's, I think, the most important thing now, next to being healthy. And I don't think that neuroscience will really solve it, because these are really traits of individuals and characters. So the positive and the negative ones. And if you're positive, then it's also very likely that you would like to live in a quite healthy stage until the age of 130 or 140. However, if you don't see it very positively and you're a little bit more depressed and say, no, this is not going to happen, then I think you will also stay until your death in that condition. So we can change that.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you, in a way, give the time to change, but then the individual is then who decides whether they want to be happier or not?
Yeah, but that's of course independent of age, because also teenagers can decide. Now, sometimes you cannot decide if you're happy or not, but it seems a little bit, try to be happy and to try the beautiful things in life, and do not really focus on the negative things in life. And I don't think that that really changes, because we know that, for example, diseases like depression, they're independent of age. So it's not that older individuals, they have more depression. It's the same percentage over the age group, so younger and older. However, older individuals, they are more lonely. But loneliness is not a disease. Loneliness is not depression, that you are feeling very depressed. So loneliness is just that you don't have the friends in your surrounding you would like to have, and you can't make the contact because of whatever. It can be physical restraints, but it can also be mental things, that you cannot make the contact. Or friends died because you are so old that actually you lost all friends in your surrounding, which is quite difficult at old age. So I think we just have to make sure, if we are living more healthy for longer, that we also grow as a society and make friends and include also older generations into society. Mm-hmm. And that we make sure that we don't lose them.
And now another question regarding the coronavirus. Do you think the pandemic and the quarantining has affected current teenagers' future longevity? If so, how?
Oh, I think definitely. I think not seeing your friends and not going out and not also doing sports, for example, really affects it. However, I think so. Yes, there's detrimental things, and also the content your teachers gave. They really tried hard, and they did a great job to educate via Zoom and via other software systems. So they did a very great job. Um, but still, it's I think not enough because the transition time was not enough. So that's quite negative. On another side, I think it can also be quite positive what Corona brought, but you have to tell me actually, because the sometimes it's there are so many things to do and you are just rushing all the time. And now COVID came, and you are not you cannot rush anymore. You can rush in reading books, but you cannot rush to the next party or to the next activity. So I think it slowed us down a little bit, the lockdown, and it really brought some reflection what is very important. And I think the restrictions of sometimes just seeing one person per day or two or three also makes you think, who is the one I really would like to see? So, and maybe you are valuing that interconnectivity between the one you are talking to much more because you had that intensive talk together, because you were not able to go out or to go shopping, etc. So I think there are positive and negative things, and hopefully, especially teenagers will learn that sometimes you can slow down and you can have other activities which might be much more meaningful.
If I can add something out of my personal experiences, I've had some moments of realization during the pandemic just because I was more patient, I slowed down, and I could like think of things which I really want to do and engage in rather than things that just pop up and that I sort of accept and do immediately. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think so. And hopefully lots of others really have that, because that's very, so when do you have actually time to think? And that's not very often, sometimes on a vacation, but then you always try to do things. So I think it's a very good thing for all generations on one hand, but on the other hand, of course, there's also lots of loneliness during COVID and lots of negative things. But I think carpe diem, use your time and think and prepare the next steps. That's very important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for these useful answers. And I have just a couple last questions, more oriented exactly at the younger population. So first of all, what advice would you have for high school students who are only just discovering their interest in longevity? Maybe where should they go? Perhaps what they should dive into, like what sciences?
Most importantly, what I learned during my career is that you need a mentor. And a mentor can be a person you trust. And it can be, most of the times, it's a little bit more senior person who has experience in the field, and also not only in the field, but especially life. That's very important, that you don't do very silly things. So choose a mentor you're trusting, who can educate you and who can connect you to a group of people that person thinks you should be connected to at the right time. Because if you're eager and you would really like to invest in aging, then of course there is a question where to start. And start with a person, and maybe the conference, hopefully everybody is attending, will help that you are choosing a person who you think you like from a character point of view, because that's very important. So not only how many papers somebody wrote or what others think, but where you think, okay, that could be a connection. And then just approach these individuals by Zoom, by email, etc. Just give them a call. But do not forget that you should also approach the internet your own. So Google and think, where could you actually go? That's also what I did when I was in China. And I said, okay, I want to do something in longevity and geriatrics. And I just Googled, and then I came to Groningen in the Netherlands, which was then my first or my next part of my road trip. So most important, connect and use the network of others to find your path, but define your path during your pathway. So do not think that you have to know everything what you would like to do during the first 1 or 2 years of your study, but it can develop and it will change during the time. And if you ask what kind of study should you do, I think it's you will have a great career if you are passionate about aging and that if you study medicine, because we really need clinician scientists who understand the human body, who understand the language of biology and biologists, because that's the interconnectivity. So study medical, do a medical degree, and also practice medicine, because then you know how people look like if they are sick or if you make them healthy, and connect to somebody who understands the biology of aging. But you can also study if you think, oh no, I don't want to be a doctor in a white coat, then study biomedical sciences. But even you can study philosophy, for example, because that's what we really need. We need the cross-contamination of different specialities, or go into allied health. So be a physiotherapist and understand everything about muscles and bones, or be a cognitive therapist, because really the understanding of the brain. So I would say that you can study everything, and everything will be related to aging, because aging is so broad. But be specific what you would like to study in a broad sense. So even if you study politics, I think very important to then focus on aging.
And to go back to mentors, where would you say, except for, of course, the RDD program, which is actually a brilliant way to find a mentor, where else would you say we could find mentors?
I would say look at nowadays there is an internet and there's a web and there's YouTube, etc. So just type in what you're interested in, and then really scroll through all the videos, etc. And by, I think, seeing somebody and hearing somebody, you get a good gut feeling if you would connect to somebody. And then do a little bit of research, what that somebody actually did, if it's just a good entertainer or if there's also real science next to that. And just just send an email and be in contact if you know what you want, because that's very important. If you don't know what you want, then it's a little bit difficult to approach somebody. But you can also say, I don't know what I want. That's also that you don't know what you want. So that's very, very important. So, but also try maybe on the conference to talk to people, and while talking to people, then connecting to the next person.
Mm-hmm. And one final question. If you had an unlimited amount of money or resources to spend in longevity, how would you use it from a scientific point of view?
That's what I don't have an unlimited amount of money, by the way, but that's really setting up a structure to do randomized control trials in a parallel way, and doing lots of studies, lots of interventions, and trying the next compound, the next medication, one after each other, that you have a fast pace of results coming up and really knowing what to do. I think that's most important, and learning from trial and error, because that's what we have to do. We need the evidence. If you take a certain pill with a certain drug in there, take it, see what the controls do, what the participants do, and if it fails and there's no effect, throw it into the bin and try the next one, or in parallel. So because I think we need the evidence, what's working and what's not working, to really make it true that we can prolong health span.
So these were all of my questions today, Dr. Maier. I want to thank you very, very much for your time and everything you shared. It has truly been great to speak to such a remarkable researcher.
Thank you. But now I would like to know, what's your dream?
Well, I'm interested in the neurobiological sort of point of view of longevity. So I'm interested in connecting the brain to longevity, because as it's the sort of the powerhouse of our whole body, in my opinion, it would be really interesting to look at what happens in the brain that determines longevity.
Okay. And how do you do that? What's your path?
At the moment, I'm going from both directions, from neurobiology and from longevity, and trying to find a middle pathway and connect them somehow.
Okay. And where are you on the path? Which grade are you in?
I'm currently in year 11 British school, and next year is the year 12, which is the penultimate year of school. And I'm taking some sort of like practice and work experience in different laboratories that I can find that allow me to take part in experiments, but also, for example, taking part in this RDD program to find out about good and famous longevity researchers.
Okay. So very good. So you really know what you want. So that's very very easy then, your pathway. So you just have to connect to the right person, then there will be a brilliant pathway.